Let's stick with the theme then. The entertainment industry has been badly affected, as you know, by the series of lockdowns starting in March last year. Artists have been unable to work, while financial relief from government has been wrecked by scandals. Just a few weeks ago, artists held a picket outside the ANC's headquarters, Luthuli House. Jazz icon Sibongile Mngoma has been at the forefront of campaigning for artists. She joins me now for reaction to the relaxation of the restrictions. Ms. Mngoma, thank you for your time. So it would seem then that we're sort of reverting to a situation we last saw around February thereabouts, where we can have at least 250 people indoors and 500 people outdoors, but the curfew remains and some of the other restrictions do remain. What is your sense of the degree to which this will be useful and helpful to artists?
Thank you so much for having me. And my immediate response would be to say we are always grateful for any relaxation of the restrictions, particularly if it means that you can have even some form of gathering. But like you say, with the devastation of almost 2 years and people being unable to work, not that they could work a little bit, unable to work, the one thing that he sort of mentions that there will be an easing that will assist the artists, but he did not outline a plan for a sector that has been affected for over almost 2 years. And without that plan, even the restrictions being eased up a little, it's concerning. How do you expect people to just, and then there's also that whole thing of in 2 weeks' time, we will revisit that, and then just as you're thinking the shows are going to go up, the president comes out 2 weeks later, and then he takes us back to level 4. Now, that's concerning. I don't know how to feel actually, but I think it's a good thing that at least gatherings are allowed, but I think there's more that needs to be done, and there's more consultation that needs to happen.
So from what I'm hearing, there needed to be a sector-specific reopening that is directly targeted at the arts and entertainment and cultural sectors that have been utterly devastated by the lockdowns. What does that look like, a sector-specific plan for reopening that sector?
Okay, so you start right from the heart of the problem. The heart of the problem being the issue of vaccination, non-vaccination, pro, anti-vax, and all of that. You deal with the fears by giving people information, and then you explain to people why there's a need for this, so that they understand how that could impact the opening up of spaces. But you don't just say, if you don't vaccinate, then you cannot make money. You cannot go back to doing your work. It's important to say to people, this is what happens when people vaccinate. This is what happens when people don't vaccinate. And these are the dangers. And then you say to people, for your sector to open, this is how we as government are prepared to assist your process. To restart the economy, for example. How do we revive businesses that have died a natural death because they cannot be opened? How do we assist the process of getting people work ready? The same thing happened for health workers. The same thing happened for teachers. Why is it not happening for artists? Are we that unimportant to this country?
But the retort from government will be to say that, well, hang on, we're doing exactly what you are talking about. This past week, we launched the Return to Play is in Your Hands vaccination campaign, where The Minister of Sports, Arts and Culture, Nathi Mthethwa, was even making examples that the sooner we can get artists on board to help us drive the vaccination message home, and the sooner we can get as many people vaccinated, the sooner we can return to the things we love doing, the sporting activities, your Joy of Jazz and the Cape Town International Festival. So they'll be saying we are already doing that.
But they're not. And that is a fact. They are not. I'm the one who came out in another television interview and said, involve artists in the drive so that people can understand why. Instead of asking me how that would work and what it would look like, they came out, they put out a marquee that is expensive in a stadium, and they bring out 10 of their favorite artists who never come out in support of anything that artists on the ground are struggling with. And those are the ones that are always part of their campaigns. And they bring them out to then basically endorse what they're saying, not educate. They are there to endorse. The rest of the artists were not even there. I saw a video of that stadium event, and the chairs were empty. And the artists were coming out to say, dear artists, they're talking to chairs. And then you're saying artists are supposed to be part of this process that they're not even there for. We need to be present in our own lives as artists. And government cannot pretend that by ticking boxes and saying, but this is what we are doing, the minister coming out, being vaccinated on the day. How long has it been since this vaccination process started? And he only got vaccinated last week. What does that say about his own sense of responsibility around this pandemic?
Lastly, Sibongile Mngoma, let me ask you about the campaign that you've been waging for some kind of support then in the interim while we're having these lockdowns that are disruptive to the sector, the arts and culture sector. Subsequent to that sustained campaign that you had a few months ago, has anything shifted? I imagine not much from what I just heard you say.
Nothing shifts. They keep doing things to prove to the media that something is happening. And when we say to the president, please remove the minister who's not listening to artists, he doesn't. He has a cabinet reshuffle that doesn't include the arts. And then yesterday he comes out to say, if everybody's vaccinated, then we can have concerts. And while we wait for that to happen, we can have 250 people indoors. With what money? With what money? What is the plan to assist that process to begin? To say people must go get vaccinated, how do they get there? Where is the information, the pertinent information that assists the process? You can't just use words just to make yourself feel better. Use words to drive the message that get action. The problem with this country is not that there are not enough ideas. The problem is the implementation plan that does not exist. What is the implementation plan?
All right, I've got to thank you for your candor there. That is jazz icon Sibongile Mngoma there, just, laying out the challenge for the government in really putting their words into action in as far as supporting the arts and culture industries and, working towards a sector-specific plan for a reopening and supporting the artists. The challenge is now, the ball is really in the court of the government. Would love to hear from them what it is that they're doing in this regard.